The power of life is what I want to title this talk. And I want to start by just giving a little bit of understanding of how powerful life is. Those that know me know that I'm a big movie fan. I love going to the movies. It's a passion of mine. I go to the movies and it's dark and I sit and watch the movie and I don't expect anybody else to speak to me. And when somebody speaks to me while I'm watching a movie, especially in a movie theater, it bothers me a lot. And so I tell people before the movie starts, please don't talk to me. I want to watch the movie. One of the things that annoys me the most is that somebody that might be in this room, when we go to the movies together, they start asking questions. And they ask questions as if I know what's going to happen, even though it's the first time I'm watching the movie too. And so, earlier, a couple of weeks ago, there was a movie that was very famous. A lot of people watched it. It gained over $900 million in the box office. It's called Oppenheimer. And it was considered by the Academy of Art and Motion Pictures like the best film or the best picture of 2023. See, the Academy of Arts and Motion Pictures consists of a little bit less than 10,000 members. And so these 10,000 members have voting rights, and every year they get together and vote for a specific film to be considered the best picture of that year. And so the best picture of 2023 was a little film that cost about $100 million called Oppenheimer. And it's so funny because we can get 10,000 people to agree on which movie is the best film of 2023. Yet, husbands ask their wives what they want for dinner, and their wives say, I don't know. Those that are laughing, they're laughing because they've experienced that. It's a bit funny that we can get to that point. And so Oppenheimer was considered the best picture of 2023. It was a spectacle of about 3 hours of people having conversations in different rooms. There was no action, there was no guns, it wasn't a war movie, it was a thriller though. You would sit on the edge of your seat, and because there were people having conversations in rooms, you would start to feel anxious over the conversations that were being had, and that simplifies the movie because we would have to talk a lot about what actually happened, but it was just so exciting seeing all of these people in rooms talking. You know how exciting that is, seeing people in rooms talking? That's why women do it so much. Because it's so exciting. See, it's about a scientist called J. Robert Oppenheimer and his journey for the creation of the atomic bomb that eventually destroyed the cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945 during the Second World War. It's the only use of an atomic weapon in the history of humankind. And it killed between 129,000 and 226,000 people. The number is not so exact. There's a big disparity between the estimate because the effects were so prolonged that they couldn't even calculate how many people it actually killed. And so the creative desires and the ambitions of a man launched the world into 60 years, or into the start of 60 years of what is known as the Cold War. And so the beginning of this film, this 3-hour thriller of people talking in rooms, it starts with a comparison of a Greek mythological story about Prometheus. And Prometheus is known as challenging the Greek gods, stealing from them fire and giving it to humanity. Prometheus, through his what we could call generosity, was punished by torture for eternity because of his decision to share fire with humanity. See, their stories are described, or their stories describe death. Prometheus and Oppenheimer, they're similar figures, having access to something that they couldn't quite contain and didn't understand the magnitude of, yet they still gave it to humanity. Their ambitions gave into the hands of humanity what we call death. So the question we need to ask ourselves, if there are films and stories about the giving freely of death to humanity, what story contains the giving freely of life to humanity? See, verse 50 in Matthew chapter 27 says, "Then Jesus shouted again, and he released his spirit." If we look at this in the most cynical way, in the most doubtful way, we could come to understand that what was happening is that Jesus was on the cross and he decided to give up. But what really happened is that with this act of releasing his spirit, he fulfilled three things. The first thing he fulfilled is that he fulfilled purpose. Have you ever been on vacation and you're sitting on the beach and you're sipping a nice cold Coca-Cola or whatever drink that you like, and you're sitting in the sun and you're becoming a little bit darker each second that goes by, and you're so sweaty because the sun is just beating down on you, and you say, I was created for this. Only me? Nobody else here has experienced that before? I'll be doing that soon. I was created for this. We have to wake up and go to work every single day when we could be doing this. See, that's what is called purpose. It brings you satisfaction. I need you to understand that we were created to enjoy life. We were created to enjoy the earth. And we feel purpose when we enjoy. That's why the purpose of some mothers, some exceptional mothers, is that ability to love others without limits. That's why the purpose of doctors is the ability to heal. And so Jesus was created with the sole purpose and no other purpose but to give life. He fulfilled his purpose. The second thing he fulfills is that he was in peace. John describes that Jesus bowed his head. And see, when you bow your head, what you're doing is you're taking a posture of rest. Other people that go to the movies, not me, but other people that I know, they go to the movies, and when it gets really, really dark, about 20 minutes in, they bow their head. And they start making noises. Like that. That people I know you don't know anybody like that, but some people that I know, they start to rest in the movie theaters. It gets so dark, and for some reason they get so tired that their eyes just start to close on them. And they sound like trains. It sounds like there's a train in the movie theater. Because when you bow your head, it's a posture of rest. You don't rest unless you are in peace. That's why when you go to someone else's house, it's so difficult to fall asleep. But when you're at your house in your own bed, with your own blankets and your own pillows that you know have your slobber on it, but nobody else's, it's so easy to fall asleep because you're in peace. And so Jesus bows his head because he's in peace. He fulfilled his purpose and he was in peace. But the third thing that happens is that he demonstrates power. So on the cross, what we see is that there is a demonstration of purpose, there is a demonstration of peace, and there is a demonstration of power. See, nobody took Jesus' life. He gave it willingly. Verse 50 says, he released his spirit. This power redefines the cross. See, the cross was known as a method to bring about death. The cross was such a controversial form of torture that about 200 to 300 years after Jesus' crucifixion, it was outlawed to only the poor. And later it was outlawed completely by the Roman Empire. And so it was known as a form of torture to bring about death. But when we see the cross, because one man decided to release his spirit, we don't think about death, but we think about life. And when there's life, life cannot be contained. It needs to be shared. Life always changes the atmosphere. That's why when someone is charismatic and enters into a party that's dead, you might say the life of the party has now arrived. Where there is life, it cannot be hidden. So what happens is, verse 51 describes it perfectly. It says, at that moment, the curtain in the sanctuary of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. The earth shook, rocks split apart, and tombs opened. The curtain of the sanctuary divided the holy place with the holiest of holies. The holiest of holies was the place in which high priests would go to show that there's a sacrifice, and there they communicated with God. But nobody else could enter, because if they entered, they would be killed. If the high priest entered without a sacrifice, without blood on his hands, he would also be killed. And so this curtain represented the divide between God and humanity. Separated until life was given, because life was taken from one man. Jesus fulfilled his purpose. He was in peace, and he demonstrated power. But verse 52 says, and tombs opened. This is something that when we read it, we find it strange. We need to be honest with ourselves. We read this, and we can honestly think, this is a weird thing that is happening. What Matthew describes here. He says that the tombs opened, and the bodies of many godly men and women who had died were raised from the dead. And then he continues and says, they left the cemetery after Jesus' resurrection, went into the holy city of Jerusalem, and appeared to many people. Imagine your mother-in-law coming back to life after she died. Many of you would think that's not such a pleasant experience. There's no other registry of this happening in Scripture. Matthew is the only one that mentions this happening. And he drops it and gives no further explanation. He says, yeah, people came back to life. It was pretty cool. And continues. But I think that what he's explaining to us, or what he wants to tell us, is that when you take Jesus as the compass of your life, you stop just existing. Your soul that desired so much to breathe receives life. And your reality, your universe, your world changes completely. And when you were dead, you now come back to life. You start to live because one man gave his life, and because he lived with us, we now can live. It's not a visible change necessarily, but it's the act that the life is in you, and you have exited the tomb of depression. You have exited the tomb of guilt. You have exited the tomb of anxiety and condemnation and solitude. You've exited the tomb of death. And because one man came back to life, you now live with him. See, his death shows that he was a man walking on this earth, interacting with other men. He was human, but his resurrection shows that he was really God. Because only God has the ability to kill something and bring it back to life as if nothing ever happened. And so, when you made the decision to believe in him as your Savior, you were dead, but he has brought you back to life. You have been resurrected with him. And because he lives, we also live. We walk into his presence because the curtain of the temple, of the sanctuary, has been ripped apart from top to bottom. And the one who ripped it to give us access to God was God himself. So he makes the invitation, come into me. Walk into eternity. Come live life. The life that I have given you. I'm the spring of life, the water that feeds and nourishes your soul. I'm the bridge builder, the one that does not condemn you. I will accept you as you are, humble at heart, and I am the one who died on the cross, but the one who resurrected on the third day. That is the power of life. The life that we have access to, the life that we walk in fullness, the life that we share with others, because he died and resurrected on the third day. I want to invite you to stand. And so you can repeat this prayer with me if you desire. But I just want to take a moment to thank Jesus for what he has done for us. Your mercy is so wonderful. Your love is so extraordinary. Your peace is so limitless that we have access to it. The life that you have given us, not because we did something to deserve it, but because your love is so powerful. We are raised from the dead because you have given us life. We walk into the holy city. Not the physical city of Jerusalem, but the presence that you have allowed us access to. All because you love us. We walk in peace. We walk in love. We walk in harmony, in creativity, in wonder, in glory, because you have given it to us. And we enter into the temple that is your presence because you have ripped the curtain that divided us and have given us access to you. I pray that this life that we have been given, give us strategies, methods, and ideas. Give us the words and the actions. Put it in our minds and in our hearts so that we can share this life.